The legend of Crazy Hazel. Yo, crew, this is the Captain's Log. Tonight's true story comes from Richmond in 1975, back when Little Island was still mostly farmland. The roads were dark, the ditches were full of moving water, and teenagers still whispered about a witch named Crazy Hazel. Me and my friends drove onto her abandoned property one night, thinking it was just an old local legend. Then a flash lit up the barn. A scream tore through the dark. Something came running at our car with wild hair, glowing eyes, and what looked like a staff in her hand. Stay aboard until the end, because that land is no longer empty farmland. Today people live, shop, walk, and play where Crazy Hazel was said to haunt. If you enjoy true paranormal stories, forgotten local legends, and strange encounters from the old days, like, subscribe, and throw us a line at ghostboatadventures@gmail.com. Tonight's story is true. The year was 1975. I was about 15 years old. Richmond was very different back then. It was not the crowded city people know today. Little Island was still mostly farmland at the mouth of the mighty Fraser River. There were long country roads, open fields, drainage ditches, old barns, and wide, dark spaces where young people could disappear for a few hours without anyone asking too many questions. Back then, ditches ran everywhere, and people have long said running water could feed paranormal energy. I cannot prove that, but I can tell you this. Little Island has always felt full of spirits, and on this night, I was about to find out why. My friend was named Norm. Norm was of German descent. Years later, he would die tragically in a house fire, trapped in an attic. That is the sad truth of his story. But on the night I am talking about, Norm was alive, loud, fearless, and ready to scare the living daylights out of all of us. I remember waiting for him inside his house before we went out. He lived there with his mother. It was the first time I had met her. I could hear the German accent in her voice, and I could feel her stern manner immediately. She looked at me and said, "Stand there where I can see you, and don't steal anything." I was slightly hurt. I was also slightly amused. When Nora finally came downstairs and we left the house, I said to him, "I met your mom. She's a wonderful lady. Does she think all your friends are thieves, Norm?" Norm did not miss a beat. "That woman is out of her mind," he said. "Don't listen to her." Then we climbed into his car, and that car deserves a warm moment. Norm drove a Buick Wildcat with a huge beast of an engine, a 425 cubic inch V8. That machine did not just start, it woke up. It growled like something that had been sleeping under the hood and did not appreciate being disturbed. Norm loved that car, and he loved driving it through the dark country roads of Richmond. On this night, the Wildcat was full of boys and girls. We were young, we were restless, we were looking for somewhere quiet where nobody would bother us. Norm knew exactly where to go. He drove us out along the lonely roads of Little Island, into an area that today is covered with expensive real estate, a park known as Terra Nova, and modern life in every direction. But back then it was farmland, just farmland, dark fields, wet ditches, open sky, and one enormous old barn, standing alone with no obvious house nearby, and no lights burning anywhere around it. Norm pulled up near the barn and shut off the engine. The sudden silence was heavy. No motor, no city noise, just the dark fields around us. We sat there in the car with the windows down, drinking, smoking, talking, and letting the night settle around us. Then Norm decided it was time. He turned to the carload of us and said loudly, and bravely. Has anyone ever heard of the legend of Crazy Hazel? I had never heard of Crazy Hazel, so I looked at him like he was making it up. Norm saw disbelief on my face and smiled. That was exactly what he wanted. He began telling us the story. According to Norm, Crazy Hazel had once owned all the land around us. The barn belonged to her. The fields belonged to her. And people said she was not just an old woman. They said she was a witch. A real witch. A woman with strange powers. Norm said she had died, but her land still sat empty. And some people claimed she still returned to haunt anyone brave enough or stupid enough to trespass on her property. Then Norm pointed toward the barn in the darkness. That's why we're here, he said, to see if she shows up. That was the moment the mood changed. A few seconds earlier, we were just teenagers in a loud car on a dark country road. Now we were sitting beside the abandoned barn of a dead witch on a land we had no business being on. The girls gasped. The boys tried to act brave. Nobody wanted to look scared, but everybody felt it. I could feel the fear moving through that car. Norm could feel it too, and he loved it. He laughed at us, he mocked us, he called us chickens. As far as Norm was concerned, his campfire story was working perfectly. Wonderful, he might say. He was jumping with delight. In a car full of frightened puppies. In the night, answered him. A bright flash exploded near the barn. Not lightning, not headlights, not something we could easily explain. It looked almost like fireworks bursting out of the darkness. Then came the scream, a banshee scream, sharp, wild, terrifying, the kind of scream that does not just reach your ears, it climbed to your spine. My hair stood straight up. Every person in that car froze. And something came out of the darkness. A figure appeared near the barn and came toward us, screaming, long hair flying everywhere, eyes glowing, one arm raised. Waving looked like a cane or a staff. And that voice kept screaming at us to leave. Leave now. Leave now. Leave now. Crazy Hazel. At least that is what every person in that car believed in that moment. She looked real. Not mist, not shadow, not imagination. Real. And the bravest person in that car suddenly stopped being brave. Norm had just been laughing at us. Now he looked frozen. He looked like a man who had just discovered his own ghost story was true. All of us started yelling at once, "Drive, Norm, drive." Norm snapped out of it. He fired up the Wildcat, that big 425 V8 roared like thunder. He threw the car into gear, and we tore out of there like the devil himself had just leaned into the back window and asked for a ride. Nobody laughed now. Nobody mocked anybody now. Nobody called anyone chicken. Every one of us knew we had seen something. Maybe it was Crazy Hazel. Maybe it was someone pretending to be Crazy Hazel. Maybe someone was protecting that land. Or maybe the legend had teeth after all. But I will tell you this. In that moment we believed. We believed completely. And I have wondered about that night ever since. Because that land did not stay empty. The old barn was torn down. The farmland disappeared. The ditches were changed. The roads were changed. The whole area was swallowed by modern Richmond. Today there are expensive houses, a park, schools, shopping areas, and people walking around who may have no idea what stories were once told about that land. So I have to ask, did Crazy Hazel leave when their barn came down? or if she's still there. Have people living near Terra Nova ever heard screams in the night? Have children in the park ever seen an old woman where no old woman should be? Have homeowners ever felt watched from the edge of a field that no longer exists? And does anyone from Old Richmond remember the legend of Crazy Hazel? If you know this story, or if you've heard a different version of it, throw us a line. ghostportadventures@gmail.com, or leave a comment below. We read every message and finds its way aboard the Phantom Die. Like, subscribe, and share this episode with anyone who remembers Old Richmond, Lulu Island, Terra Nova, or true local legends that never made it into the history books. And if you would like to help keep Ghostport afloat, sport links are already waiting in the About section of the channel. Friday Night Frights, before the Phantom Die. Captain Wake, the Fallen Shout, Captain Jordan, and his crew goes over and